unthinkable is that they dominated a team that had dominated mostly over the last 6 weeks everybody that they had played. But that doesn't mean just because you dominate one team that we thought were the best that automatically puts you into the Super Bowl. There's still a long road, and then you have to worry about injury. Hopefully none of that happens. And all of their key players, we see Kyle Hamilton got nicked last night, and he was already wearing a knee brace because of a sprained MCL. So he kind of got nicked late in the ball game, and so you never know. It's a war of attrition, and you just try to hopefully go into the game as healthy as you possibly can, come out of the game as healthy as you possibly can. But we saw last night when a team turns the ball over, that's the greatest neutralizer. Because not only do you go down to their level, you raise them up to your level. And sometimes we saw what when the 49ers turned the ball over, if two teams are here, you start to turn the ball over, and now all of a sudden the other team goes there. And that's what we saw last night. But I've always thought since about 6 weeks ago, the Ravens were questions about that Saturday. Right. But when they go on the road and they beat the 49ers, like the 49ers had beaten everybody else over the last 6 weeks, I don't think there's a question that they're the best team, but that doesn't automatically place them into the Super Bowl. It's not like you get a bye because you've been dominating everybody, and so you're automatically into that game. They're still going to have to win 2 games in the playoffs, and they're still going to have to, finish out the regular season. But it does prove to me that they're the best team in the NFL, although it doesn't automatically guarantee them a spot in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think the best thing that I love what you just said is don't be a prisoner of the moment, right? Is that as good as they played last night, and as well as they executed offensively and defensively, they were off the charts. Man, Queen, Smith, the 2 linebackers, they're playing lights out everywhere. They pass rushed as well as I've seen them against a good offensive line, compressed the pocket, made Purdy uncomfortable. All the things they did last night. To your point, you're always worried about how we stay health-wise at this point in the season, right? And listen, even for the 49ers, Trent Williams goes out with a groin pull, right? Purdy gets a stinger. All of a sudden, a team that we thought is the number 1 team in the league for the last 4 or 5 weeks, man, they may drop way down. These guys are injured and they can't go play. 49ers ain't the same team without Trent Williams. Like, let's be real. That is an absolute dude, right? So when you look at these kinds of situations, I think what the Ravens did last night was extremely impressive. I thought what John Harbaugh did, and you made this point, the first point, man, he backs his dudes, right? Like, 4th down, absolutely. Give it to Gus. We're going to go score. We ain't going back. We're not going to be scared. We're not going to play tentative. We're going to full on press the gas. And that's when it was kind of a slow start, really, for them, right?
It was.
Safety, and he did not move off the number. And I think that's the part that you respect so much about the Ravens. But to your point, when you hit the playoffs, execution is going to be key, right? The way defenses lock onto you. And it is a game of attrition as the playoffs continue because those games don't come free. Bro, you're laying it out there. Everybody's intensity is up. Everybody's playing fast, the way the games go. And so I'm with you, man. I think the Ravens right now are the best team in the NFL, bar none. I think they are a physical football team, the number 1 team in defense. They play great on offense. I'm fired up to see them. But listen, I want these 2 teams back. I'm just going to tell you right now, I'd love to see this game, come for the big one. This was a fun game to watch.
And you know what, Saturday? The thing that the Ravens did, they made the 49ers pay for every mistake. Every ball that got tipped up into the air, Kyle Hamilton came down with it. Marlon Humphrey came down with it. I don't know what he saw because the first drive, they opened the drive with a very promising drive. You think they're about to get 7 points. They're playing quarters coverage. And I don't know where he was throwing the ball because the safety doesn't move. All it is simple quarters coverage. You got nothing to hold the backside safety wherever you're counting it from, left to right or right to left. But there's nothing to hold Kyle Hamilton. So there's nothing to hold him. What makes you think that he's looking directly at you because he's backing straight back, Saturday? So it took so much of the momentum out of that because they had got the big play to Kittle, and you're like, oh, my goodness, this is the 49ers that we're used to seeing. Catch the ball short. Hey, get running yards after catch. Ayuk, everybody was doing really well. But then all of a sudden, they bring a double slot blitz. Stevens gets his hands up. Marlon Humphrey is coming, and Purdy's trying to find it. The next thing you know, it's in Marlon Humphrey's hand. And they got 2 of those. Kyle Hamilton's on the ground. That just goes to show you effort. He's on the ground. The ball caroms up in the air. He gets up off the ground and catches it.
Yep.
That's when you know you're living right. That's when you know you're doing the right thing. And so every mistake the 49ers made, the Ravens made them pay for it. And that's what you have to do.
And it's kind of more emphasis on you saying, don't be a prisoner in the moment because we've seen teams get stuck in that in the past. But Shannon, in the AFC, who do you have as a pick for the Super Bowl?
Well, I would have to take the Ravens right now because I think they're the most complete team. They can run the football. They lead the league in rushing, which they normally would. And that engine behind that is Lamar Jackson because he makes you change the way you have to play him defensively. If you look at the way the 49ers tried to attack him last night, they're a team that likes to jump off the football and go get your quarterback. But what they had last night was they kind of like muddle rush. Saturday, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They were going straight down the man because they didn't want to give him windows. They didn't want to give him lanes to jump out of and take off running. And so that's not who they are. Bosa likes to bend the edge. Those guys like to get upfield, attack your quarterback. Well, Lamar says, okay, you can attack me, but if you give me a crease, I'm deucing you out.
That's right.
And so now it slowed them down from doing kind of how they wanted to attack him. They don't throw the ball, let's say, as well as a Miami or a Buffalo. But what they can do, now the question is, can you put them in a situation where they're behind and you're going to force Lamar Jackson to throw the ball when he doesn't want to? Because last night he was in a situation they threw the ball when they wanted to. The 49ers could not force them to throw the football on their terms. Now, come playoff times, can Buffalo, can Miami, or whomever else is in the playoff or they could potentially face, can you make the Ravens throw the ball on your terms? Because if you cannot, you're going to have a hard time beating them.
And the divisional round is the furthest that Lamar has made it in the playoffs in 5 years as a starter. Now,
when you can sit in the pocket and allow your offensive line to stand in front of a guy and then you buy that extra time, it's a scramble drill basically behind it. DBs can't cover that long. MVP. It's an absolute impossibility.
Nick, it seems like you've got
sure looks like.
Yeah.
Nah, it just sure looks like Jeff said that he's not the MVP, but then proceeded to make an argument for why he is an MVP, why he neutralized one of the best defensive lines in football, made plays with his legs and with his arms, bought time, and was deliberate with his decisions downfield. So as much as I love the idea that Jeff is, what?
You can't do that to me.
I can't do what? I can't do my job?
He had a great game last night. I love it. He has done that all season. 2 of the last 5 games, he's had 170 yards throwing the ball, right, with under a 60% completion rate.
Well,
so if you look at those games, that's why I say he's not going to be in the MVP. Not because they don't win. He's not great yesterday, but his scramble ability is special.
I would love. So it's funny because if you're going to argue who's valuable, it's inarguable that the MVP is always going to go to the quarterback because quarterbacks are more valuable than anybody else. I love the idea of changing to most outstanding player, which is what you're making an argument for, where you're saying Christian McCaffrey or Tyreek Hill, one of those guys. If that's what the award was, I'd be on board for you. I hate that it only goes to quarterbacks. But if we're talking about who has more value to their team or to more value to the league, it's always going to be a quarterback. And while his numbers were not great in all those games, you can still watch those games and understand that this team is mediocre without Lamar Jackson. They're like the Browns without Lamar Jackson. And the Browns are great defense, but an offense that fluctuates. You put Lamar Jackson on that team and they then become the best team in football. I don't know how we have any argument about anyone else. I think you could say that's true for a lot of other players, but no one has the best team in football right now. So I don't want to say this to suggest that the rest of the team doesn't deserve credit. They deserve a lot of credit, especially that defense. That Ravens defense, this is the first time we've seen all year that the 49ers didn't out-physical a team. That Ravens defense was blowing up the edge on those toss plays and those stretch plays. And while the 49ers still ran the ball fairly well, they were paying for it. So that Ravens team deserves a lot of credit. And like Harbaugh said on his campaign, it's a team award. And that team is going to win that award for Lamar Jackson, it seems, right now.
He says there's no clear best team in the league right now, but I feel like 48 hours ago, we all would have said it was the 49ers.
Yes.
Right, so what did we see from them last night?
Yeah, the best team in the NFL is the Baltimore Ravens. They proved that. They lined up against the best team. They now have the best record.
On the road.
They've been playing at a really high level. So the Ravens are the best team in the NFL right now. And he brought up the team aspect of this. I played for the Ravens for 3 years. 2 signs that I saw on every wall in the building. One was the team, the team, the team. That's what the Ravens did in this game. They focused on the team. They won in every single phase of the ball game. They weren't worried about awards. They were worried about winning the game.
Yeah.
And the second sign was play like a Raven. So when people talk about the 49ers and they say, man, you got to match their physicality, The Ravens are born and bred in physicality.
Yeah.
So when they say play like a Raven, they're not saying, hey, we're just going to play fast and be physical. It's a domination type of mindset. They went out there and they got that done. When you talk about the MVP, Lamar is the MVP right now, but he's got a showdown with the Dolphins this next week with Tua and Tyreek, which is going to be another MVP clash. And what's going to matter to the voters at the end of this is how these guys perform in these big games late in the year, because this is where the crux of the argument is. If you look at the whole year, 100%. It should be CMC, Tyreek, one of those guys. But now as the year gets later and Lamar has the game that he had last night, he puts himself in first, and he is the only one that can lose that down the stretch.
I feel like those MVP betting odds literally change every single week. And if the Dolphins beat the Ravens this week, we're probably sitting here talking, is Tua the MVP? Is Tyreek the MVP?
Yeah,
We'll be saying Tyreek. Tyreek.
Yeah, I mean, Tyreek, listen, he had a down.
Xin chào tất cả các bạn, chào mừng các bạn đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Và hôm nay thì mình sẽ hướng dẫn cho các bạn cách để có thể làm được một cái phong bì thư. Và bên trên thì mình có trang trí cái gương mặt của chú mèo rất là đáng yêu như thế này nhé. Hôm nay thì mình sẽ hướng dẫn cho các bạn cách để có thể làm được một cái phong bì thư hình một chú mèo nhé. Thì đầu tiên là các bạn sẽ chuẩn bị cho mình một cái bút chì này, tiếp theo là một cái thước kẻ như này nha các bạn. Rồi mình sẽ chuẩn bị thêm một cái kéo này, và cái phần cuối cùng thì sẽ là cái súng bắn keo như này nha các bạn. Và các bạn sẽ chuẩn bị thêm cho mình có thể là một cái bút bi mực đen như thế này nữa, hoặc là lát các bạn sẽ vẽ cái phần mặt của chú mèo bằng cái bút chì. Thì các bạn sẽ sử dụng cái phần nào các bạn vẽ lên cái mặt của chú mèo này cũng được nhé. Tiếp theo là 3 cái phần màu sắc để làm cái phần phong bì này. Thì các bạn sẽ sử dụng đó là cái phần màu xanh này, màu xanh nước biển này. Tiếp theo là cái phần màu hồng, và cuối cùng thì sẽ là màu đen nhé các bạn. Bây giờ thì chúng ta sẽ cùng nhau thực hiện cách để làm được cái phong bì thư hình chú mèo này. Thì đầu tiên là các bạn sẽ phải đo cho mình cái phần kích thước để mình sẽ sử dụng để làm cái phần thân của cái phong bì này nhé. Thì đầu tiên là đối với cái phần chiều dài đi. Thì cái phần chiều dài thì mình sẽ lấy là 13 cm nhé các bạn. Đây, mình sẽ lấy nó là 13 cm này. Sau đó với cái phần chiều rộng nhé. Phần chiều rộng này thì cũng chính là cái phần mà mình sẽ sử dụng để làm cái phần chiều cao, đúng không? Thì mình sẽ lấy cái phần chiều rộng của nó sẽ là 7 cm nha các bạn. Thôi mình sẽ lấy là 6 đi. 6 này. 7 cũng được nha các bạn, 7 này. 7 này. Rồi đây sẽ là cái phần mặt, cái phần mà mình sẽ làm cái phần chiều cao của cái phần phong thư nhé. Và cái phần cuối cùng này thì là cái phần mặt của cái chú mèo này, thì mình cũng sẽ để cái kích thước, trước tiên là mình sẽ để là 7 đã. Sau đó thì mình sẽ đi điều chỉnh lại tiếp cái kích thước trong khi mà mình sẽ làm cái phần phong bì này. Tiếp tục này, mình kẻ bên này sang 7 cm này. Tiếp tục bên này cũng là 7 cm nha các bạn. Rồi sau đó thì mình sẽ nối các cái phần này lại với nhau. Nối nó vào nha các bạn. Rồi tiếp tục bên này các bạn cũng nối vào này. Và mình sẽ chỉnh lại một chút nhé các bạn. Các bạn sẽ phải chừa cái bên lề của cái phần bên trái này ra cho mình tầm 1 cm, để lát nữa mình còn lấy cái phần để mình dán hai cái mặt của cái phong bì này lại nhé. Rồi các bạn sẽ cắt chừa ra cho mình tầm 1 cm là được. Rồi tiếp tục bên này. Đây, mình cũng để xuống như thế này để bù trừ cho cái phần bên kia, đúng không? Sau đó thì mình sẽ đi cắt cái phần chữ nhật này ra nhé. Đây sẽ là cái phần mà mình sẽ sử dụng để làm cái phần thân của cái phong bì này. Cắt nó ra này. Rồi, tiếp tục phần trên này. Đây, bạn sẽ cắt những cái này giúp mình. Tiếp theo bên này. Đây, cắt nó đi này. Rồi, sau đó cắt thẳng xuống đây. Đây, như vậy thì mình sẽ có một cái khối như này nha các bạn. Bây giờ thì mình sẽ đi gập tất cả những cái phần này lại để mình tạo thành một cái hình của cái phong bì nhé. Các bạn gập lên đây cho mình này. Không phải cái phần này nhá. Đúng rồi, đây là cái phần này. Đây, các bạn sẽ vuốt nó xuống như này cho mình. Vuốt nó xuống này. Rồi, tiếp theo hai cái phần để dán vào thì các bạn gập nó lên như thế này. Bên này các bạn cũng sẽ gập nó vào. Thì cái phần mặt này nhé các bạn, mặt đang thừa bên trên như này, các bạn thấy là cái phong bì thư của mình nó chỉ nằm ở bên dưới này thôi. Cái phần bên trên này thì lát nữa thì mình sẽ đi vẽ thành cái mặt của con mèo nhé. Bây giờ thì mình sẽ dán keo vào đây đã, để mình sẽ cố định được cái phần thân của cái phong bì này đã nha. Đây, các bạn sẽ dán keo vào đây giúp mình. Rồi, các bạn dán nó xuống như này. Bên này cũng làm tương tự nhé. Đây, rồi thì mình cũng sẽ dán keo vào đây. Thì đây sẽ là cái phần mà mình sẽ sử dụng để làm cái phần mặt trước của cái phong bì thư này. Đây là cái phần mặt sau. Phần mặt sau của nó như thế này nhé. Bây giờ thì mình sẽ đi vẽ cái mặt của cái chú mèo lên đây nhé các bạn. Cái phần chú mèo này thì mình sẽ vẽ cái mặt như sau. Cái này thì mình sợ là mình sẽ không vẽ được bằng cái tay bình thường, nên là mình sẽ phải sử dụng cái compa nhé các bạn. Mình sẽ sử dụng cái compa như này để mình sẽ đo và mình vẽ nhé. Chứ mình sợ là khi mình vẽ bình thường thì cái phần này nó sẽ không được bằng nhau. Đây, mình sẽ sử dụng cái compa này. Mình sẽ quay một cái hình tròn như thế này. Có bán kính là 6 cm.